The Mavericks get clobbered at home by Giannis, Dame, and the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll try to make sense of how it went down like that. Coming up next on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. Hey, what's up, Dlls Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are Dlls Mavs. Appreciate you joining us here on the post-game show as the Mavericks get clobbered tonight, 132-117 to Giannis, Dame, and the Milwaukee Bucks as the Mavericks drop to 32-29 on the season and 19-12 at the American Airlines Center. We'll break it all down here for you over the course of the next hour. We'll be joined a little bit later on in our show by our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, reporting live from the American Airlines Center as the Mavericks had 5 guys in double figures, led by Kyrie Irving, who had 31 points. Klay Thompson had 16 on the night, but Giannis had 29 points of his own, leading 6 Bucks in double figures, as Damian Lillard had 28 points. Gary Trent Jr. contributing with 20 points of his own, as the Bucks shot 50% from the field, out-rebounding the Mavericks 52-33 in this game. Bobby, it was a complete and utter domination for the for the Bucks. No, definitely not for the Mavericks.
Well, through like 15 minutes, it was going pretty well.
At one point, the Mavericks were up 10 in the second quarter, and then they were up 53-43, and after that, it went to hell after that because the Bucks started finding their stroke, especially from the three-point line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as simple as this, but the Bucks have 2 superstars, and the Mavs have 1. And the Bucks have a lot of experienced role players, guys like Brook Lopez, Kyle Kuzma, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., and the Mavs have role players who have stepped up at times throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
But, Najee, rough night. PJ Washington, I don't even feel comfortable talking about him right now until we know what's going on.
Yeah.
But, man, and, our guy Max Christie has had a rough last few games. And so, Milwaukee had more star power, more experience, and more talent. And, the Mavs have gotten a lot of wins lately in the games that they have won against teams that have either the same level of talent-ish, or in instances like whenever they beat Boston and beat Golden State, where they clearly are the better team, the opponent is clearly the better team, the Mavs just outworked them, and maybe the other guys weren't taking it super serious. The Bucks were pretty dialed in this game, and it's really, really hard whenever you are smaller and worse to win in the NBA. It's really, really hard. It doesn't matter how good Kyrie is. Kyrie was unbelievable again tonight. He's having to work really hard for everything, and I mean, this is like our worst nightmare come true with him.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk more about that later, but, other guys have to step up and have good games. Gary Trent had 20. Jaden Hardy had 16. Most of that was in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know where the offense is going to come from, man.
No, it's going to be difficult. We'll get into more with PJ Washington a little bit later on, as well, as PJ Washington left the game with 9:17 left in the third quarter and did not return as he continues to deal with that right ankle injury. The Mavericks actually led at the end of one, 36-31, but as we mentioned, they were up 53-43 with 6.5 minutes left in that second quarter after a Najee Marshall and one, but the Bucks proceeded to go on what would be overall to close out the final 6:56 of the first half on a 28-10 run to be able to lead at halftime, 71-63, and they really did not look back from there. And we know Giannis was going to get downhill. He leads the NBA in terms of paint points, scoring over 20 points in the paint per game this year. And not only did he get downhill, but other guys started to make shots. And unfortunately, we talked about it during the pregame show, the Mavericks going to have to try to keep up a little bit from the three-point line. They were not able to do so, especially as the game went on. But this really just came down to who had more talent on one side versus the other, as you mentioned. And despite the fact that you got some contributions again from Moses Brown, who played in his final game as a Dallas Maverick, he finished the game with what would be 18 points for the Dallas Mavericks. It just simply wasn't enough with the 9 rebounds that he also had. It was just too much talent on one side versus the other tonight.
Yeah, I mean, even down to the free throw shooting. Like the Mavs shot 80% from the free throw line and were second best in this game. The Bucks only shot 33% from 3, but the Mavs finished second.
Mm-hmm.
The Mavs 47% from the field, they finished second. How about Milwaukee getting 14 offensive rebounds, but still only somehow scoring 8 second chance points?
That's incredible.
This game could have been worse. It could have been worse. And with as much pressure, I'm not trying to be negative Nancy guy, I promise, but Giannis puts so much pressure on the rim, and Dame can pull it from anywhere on the floor. That combination just stretches your defense in ways that the Mavs, as currently constructed with the players that are available to them, they cannot keep up with that. I have an example later that we'll show whenever we get to the photo demonstration part of our broadcast of the size and strength difference between Brook Lopez and Moses Brown. Now Moses, I thought, was super active tonight. Moses had a pretty good game, 18 and 9. He played well and was very productive. But Brook Lopez weighs like 50 pounds more than him. And, much to my chagrin, KG, midway through the first quarter,
yes,
the Bucks decided to change course. Instead of having Brook spot up and try and bring Moses out of the lane, they were just like, dude, Brook, just go stand under the basket and just get rebound. He finished with 4 offensive rebounds, and Moses had 6 defensive rebounds. So, that battle was almost even.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your center. That's to say nothing of Giannis, and Dame and Gary Trent and all these other guys. All these individual battles the Mavs are losing right now because their personnel is just not up to snuff, and so against good teams, and I'm still not sure that I'm ready to say that Milwaukee is a good team, but talk to me in a month.
Maybe after Wednesday when they beat them again.
Milwaukee certainly right now has more talent than the Mavs. Now,
sure.
If AD's healthy, I might disagree with you, but or I might not believe that. But as it stands right now, the Bucks just are the better team. They're just better.
And they proved it tonight in a lot of different ways. I mean, to be honest, as I'm trying to think of things to say when it comes to how this game went, I mean, look, when you get to a point where at first in the first quarter, I mean, the shots weren't necessarily falling for Milwaukee in terms of beyond the three-point line. In fact, they missed their first 7 3-pointers to start this game. But we knew a team that's second in the NBA in terms of three-point percentage, shooting the ball at 38%, from 3, some of those shots were eventually going to fall. And even the fact that Dame Lillard and Gary Trent Jr. went a combined 8 of 24 from the three-point line, you still got enough shots made from other guys to be able to knock down enough threes to be able to win this game. But if you're going to tell me that 2 guys are going to go combine 8 of 24 from the three-point line, I feel like you give you a good chance to win. But there's also the other guy named Giannis who's able to get to the spots where he wants to on the floor and make things difficult for you when you don't have the necessary size to be able to continue with. And then when you miss PJ Washington as well, who, I mean, you give him credit for continuing to try to play through this ankle injury, but clearly,
do you?
Well, something's not right. I mean, clearly
he looks off. He looks bad.
Yeah, I mean, in the game against the Lakers, tried to do his best on the defensive. I thought it was okay there, but he obviously couldn't give you anything offensively. He couldn't give you anything anywhere on the floor tonight against Milwaukee. And I think there's real concern going forward with PJ Washington in this ankle injury, because if he continues to look like this, there may need to be another conversation about what it needs to look like for him to get the proper rest to be able to get to where he is capable of being as a player.
Yeah, I mean, between him and Najee, I won't even include Max Christie because I haven't the heart to do that, KG. But PJ and Najee in this game combined to go 5 of 15, but 0 of 8 from 3.
Yikes.
0 of 8 from 3.
Yeah.
And so even though Dame had, 4 for 12, whatever, 5 for 12 is really good, 4 for 12 is whatever. And Trent went 4 for 12, and Taurean Prince went 2 for 6. And Brook Lopez 1 for 3, and AJ Green 1 for 3. So all their shooters combined to shoot 33% from 3.
Mm-hmm.
And their team was 33% from 3. The Mavs got goose eggs from the guy that they rely on to shoot. Max Christie 1 for 4. If your name wasn't Klay Thompson or Jaden Hardy tonight, You were 3 for 24 from 3. 3 for 24. And like, the Mavs are, again, they're hurting for offense right now. And so these looks that are, a lot of them were open. Some of them weren't. Some of them were forced or rushed or whatever, heavily contested. But, they have to shoot better than that right now. Like, they have to shoot better. This team right now, for them to score 117 and lose by 15 is really, really demoralizing because I don't know how many more times they're going to get to 117 before the bigs come back.
And a lot of those points you started to mention with Jaden Hardy came in a fourth quarter where the game was pretty much out of hand already, and they were just continuing to go through the motions in terms of knocking down some shots. I mean, Jaden Hardy scored the 16 points. Again, a lot of it didn't necessarily make much of a difference as the game went down the stretch. The question now becomes, as we start to look forward, not just from tonight's game, the Mavericks will see the Bucks in just 4 days on March the 5th, Wednesday, in Milwaukee. They will face a Sacramento team on Monday that's dealing with a significant injury of their own in terms of Domantas Sabonis, who left tonight's game with a hamstring injury. So the Kings could be a little bit compromised in the game on Monday. What can you start to do to try to find something? Because my concern now is, as we get deeper and deeper into this season, now with 21 games left in the regular season, the taxing on Kyrie Irving and the amount of play that he has to display, especially on the offensive end, scoring 30 a night, playing, well over 35, 40 minutes a night, it feels like it's starting to take maybe its toll on him, maybe not necessarily from a physical standpoint, but just that sheer load that he has to carry without other guys being able to contribute consistently every night.
There is no solution. There's no solution unless, unless Dinwiddie or Dante just completely start balling out of their mind.
Yeah.
And Kyrie, you can just ride those guys as hot hand. But until AD comes back, and I like Gafford and Lively could come back tomorrow, both of them, and this would not change a single thing for Kyrie. And the amount of workload that he's bearing, the amount of ball handling and playmaking and decision making that he is burdened with right now. The only player on this team that can help him, unless a role player just goes unconscious, like Najee has a December repeat or whatever, is Anthony Davis coming back. That's it. Otherwise, Kyrie is going to, dude, he's going to be looking exhausted at halftime of every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like, no one can help him. There's no one on the team that can help him right now.
Not to mention, tonight, or today, I should say, was the start of Ramadan. Today is March 1st. So, of course, Kyrie Irving observes that every year. We know that he hit the big shot against Denver last year in March in the midst of Ramadan. So Kyrie Irving already going to be playing a little bit more compromised than normal with the observance of Ramadan. That just adding to the taxing that already is going to be upon him when it comes to a night-to-night basis. He played nearly 39 minutes in tonight's game with the 31 points that he had. Other guys have got to find a way to take some of this load off, because if they don't, it's going to be very difficult to try to keep themselves in the position that they need to.
Dude, I mean, you tell me, like, Najee's a turnover machine right now.
Yeah.
Clay can't dribble. Like, he tried to ISO and he dribbled it off his foot out of bounds.
Like, off his foot out of bounds.
And PJ, I mean, they're trying to get him to handle the ball, but he is just not. I don't know what happened to him. Whoever Monstar zapped him.
You took the thought right out of my brain.
I hate you so much. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hate you. And Max Christie, again, Max is kind of just crashed down to earth. Like, it's just sad. I'm sports sad right now, Kevin.
And I'm desperately trying not to do the thing to talk about the dude that's in Los Angeles. I'm trying not to. But my gosh,
I mean, you can't. That is over.
That's saying, like, it's over. It's over.
But you can't help it.
But you. What was the phrase you meant? The self-sabotage. It feels like that this team has put themselves in. It's just really unfathomable to think about. But these are the guys that are available and able to play, and they've got to get better going forward here, because otherwise the schedule doesn't get any easier. We mentioned they play Milwaukee again on Wednesday, Sacramento on Monday. You got Memphis. Phoenix, I know, is not playing very well right now. It's kind of a dumpster fire in Phoenix, but they still got guys that can play. And if you don't come with your best game, that's a team that can still score points offensively. So Mavericks got to figure it out, and figure it out quick, because we are now at the point. It's the beginning of March. We are now at the sprint portion of the season. Like, you got to go. If you're going to go, you got to go now. And the Mavericks, unfortunately, a poor start to the month of March after what was a 6-5 finish to the month of February, despite everything that took place with this team from a roster perspective. But now they find themselves starting at 0-1 to begin the month of March. Let's take our first break here on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. When we come back, we'll be joined by our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, who's reporting live from the American Airlines Center. Plus, a little bit later on in our show, Bobby will break it down a little bit in terms of how things went down for the Mavericks in this loss tonight. All that and more coming up next year on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. But first, let me talk to you about Game Time. If you love going to concerts, sporting events, basketball games, football games, or in my case, wrestling events, you got to use Game Time to get your tickets. John Cena turned heel tonight at Elimination Chamber, which means I'm going to see a heel John Cena take on Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship in Las Vegas on April 19th and 20th. And I was able to do it because I used Game Time to get my tickets. With Game Time picks, filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. They got panoramic seat views, so I knew exactly where I was going to sit before I purchased my tickets, and they got all-in pricing, so I knew exactly what I was going to pay before I got to checkout as well. So if you want to take the guesswork out of buying your tickets, do it with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Remember, terms apply. Again, create an account and use code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
KG, a loss like this inspires me to row out to the middle of the lake and just sit idle, or maybe just go into the woods for a few days and emerge once I'm ready to face the world again. But I won't be empty-handed.
That's right.
I'll have cold bevies and cold Sammies thanks to my Rugged Road cooler.
No.
One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright, so you will never lose a drink if you take that sucker in the water with you. And unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip, on land, on water, wherever you are, without compromising on performance. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used, Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Again, ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use code DLLS for 10% off.
Mavericks get crushed at home, 132-117 by the Milwaukee Bucks, thanks to Giannis's big night. Of course, he had 29 points. Damian Lillard with 28 points in the victory for the Milwaukee Bucks. Kyrie Irving, 31 points in nearly 40 minutes of play tonight. Not enough for Dallas as they dropped to 32-29 after 61 games. From Julian, best thing about the Mavs right now are Kyrie, Kevin Gray, and slightly biased.
Hey.
Oh, that's sweet, Julian. Thank you so
Let's
much.
go, KG.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Let's join in another person who is part of our spectacular crew, and he is reporting live from the American Airlines Center. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato. He is, of course, Tim Cato. Tim, what's going on?
No, Julian didn't say Kevin Gray. He said Kevin. Kevin.
I know he did throw like
over
a,
the E.
yes. I did notice that.
Kevin.
Yes.
You know, you gotta do it with like a Kevin. You know?
Right, or Kevin. Like
it could be like that too. That's another perfectly valid way to say this.
Unfortunately, not a great way to start off the month of March for the Dallas Mavericks. Giannis and Dame just simply too much tonight for Dallas.
Yeah, that's really what it came down to. Milwaukee and Doc Rivers, they obviously, as you saw in the game, they ran. They weren't staggering. It wasn't a stagger run rotation from the Bucks. It was really Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo were pretty much share the court at all times with each other. And look, again, give Dallas some credit for how resilient they are, how much, it is commendable that they keep fighting, that they, stay and stick in these games. But those runs they made, those leads they built, the times they cut into the leads is when Milwaukee was running basically all bench lineups, plus Kyle Kuzma was kind of leading them. And as soon as the Bucks starters were in the game, it was just very obvious that Dallas didn't have enough answers. And Dallas, it's Nico Harrison was trying to build a two-way team, a defensive team. And it was always going to put a lot of pressure on Kyrie Irving to be the main primary shot creator and ball handler. But it's even more dire, obviously, with this injury, with this injuries luck, without having any of the big men out there, where it was so obvious that none of the centers Dallas had, and especially once PJ Washington went out, had any ability to guard Giannis. Jason Kidd provided no injury update on PJ and the exact nature of his injury, as he tends to do. This has increasingly become, over the past few years, a franchise that is not very transparent about any injury suffered for any player. This is, a change from past coaches. I don't know exactly where it stems from. But yeah, no, you're not going to get a lot of information. He was asked if there was anything about this injury suffered tonight. And he said, refer to the statement that was given. And later in the press conference, he was asked, is this a continuation? Is this a reaggravation? Is this something new? He was asked again, just if there's any more info, and there isn't. So we're really in the dark with what exactly PJ Washington is going through. But obviously, I think it's safe to say that right now he's trying to gut it out for a team that really needs it, and it's not working. So hopefully, I think for his sake, if nobody else's, like, hopefully this is not any sort of reaggravation. We don't have any evidence that it is, but at the same time, it hasn't been outright denied. It just hasn't really been addressed beyond what the statement is. But yeah, back to how Milwaukee won this game, it was the starters, and it was the fact that Moses Brown, commendable for what he did against Charlotte, but as he ends his 10-day contract with Dallas, he just wasn't he wasn't an option to guard Giannis. When Dallas went smaller, Milwaukee posted Giannis up. When Moses Brown was on the court, it was get Moses Brown out into space and drive and attack him directly downhill. And all of Milwaukee's offense kind of stemmed from that. The most telling thing in Jason Kidd's press conference was he was asked why Klay Thompson played only 2 minutes in the third quarter. And Jason Kidd's response was pretty blunt. He said, we were trying to get stops, which, yeah. And look, we know that about Klay. We know that Klay at this point of his career is more of a tertiary guy who can guard some 3s and 4s on the weak side of the defense. And he does a pretty good job in that setting, but he's not a stopper. He's not the all defense player that he once was. And this is the balancing act. Dallas and Nico Harrison, in making this trade and bringing Anthony Davis in, the theory was that, this roster was just going to be full of two-way guys that lean defensive, and then, was buoyed by Kyrie Irving and by some shot making from Klay Thompson. But Dallas couldn't get stops, so they kept putting stoppers out, and then they couldn't create offense because Kyrie was, statistically pretty good, just like he's been every game. But Kyrie has to be amazing. Kyrie has to make up for the lack of efficiency around the edges of the roster right now, and he just can't do that every night. And so, Dallas is both putting in more offensive-minded players, and then their defense suffers, and then Jason Kidd reacts by taking out some of those offensive players and putting more defensive-minded players in, and then the offense grows stale because, unless Kyrie is just on a heater, they need more firepower out there, and then it's just a churn and a constant churn of reaction. Ultimately, Dallas just was not as talented as the Milwaukee Bucks in their starting lineup. And again, commendable performance. There was moments where this looked like it was going to be a 30-point blowout going into the fourth quarter. But there was never really any doubt. Even when Dallas was cutting into it late, this was a team that is just too incomplete, too injured, and not as good as the opponent that they were facing. And unfortunately, you're about to go play Milwaukee again. This is going to be the case with multiple opponents coming up in the next few weeks. That you're going to see the exact same type of struggles, especially at least until PJ gets healthy and starts to look like himself again, along with a few other players on this roster who really have been in a rut.
It's funny because we've been talking about how concerned how concerned we are, with Kyrie Irving and his back injury. Hell, PJ Washington, the ankle now is like kind of moving up the concern level when it comes to what he can be moving forward here, unless he gets some proper, rest going forward. What else stood out to you from what Jason Kidd had to say, or anything else that stood out to you from tonight's game, as the Mavericks will be off tomorrow before they take on Sacramento on Monday.
I mean, that was about it, man. I feel for Jason Kidd in the sense that I don't, if I was in his place and I had to go walk up and explain this game, I don't know what to say. At some point when your team isn't your team and you're trying to address what happened any given night, and it's just that half the team or too much of the team is absent, then it ends up being the same things being said over and over again. I mean, I think we're all feeling it. Like, we keep saying the same thing over and over again. And, we were thinking about which players might, come in and talk after the game. And you go down the list and it's like, PJ Washington obviously injured, so he's not going to come talk about his injury when he got re-injured from it. Moses Brown, who statistically maybe had one of those nights that you would bring him up to the podium, what is he going to come talk about? Where he's headed next? Like what flight? When's he getting on a flight? His time's done. Like, we're going to ask him. So how'd you enjoy Dallas for 10 days? Did you make it to any restaurants? What do you think of the Victory Park area? Like, not an option. Max Christie, it turns out, what do we want to ask him? Like, what did you think of Quentin Grimes' 44-point night? Technically the guy that you're sort of replacing. Kyrie has talked every single game. And again, it's running into the same problem where, Kyrie is this team's leader and he's the spokesperson in the locker room, but there's only so many ways he can say the exact same thing. Jaden Hardy, yeah, he had some points in the fourth quarter. His stat line ended up looking pretty good. He has been so bad over the past month that, it almost feels cruel to bring him up. And so, I think Klay Thompson went up there and talked, as I was setting up, preparing to talk to you guys. And so just missed him. I thought this was going to be a Kyrie night. It looks like he's getting the night off. But, even in this parlor game of what, media members in the press conference room do and try to predict who might be coming, it's really feels dire.
Chris Haynes reporting a little bit earlier on this evening that the Mavericks will be signing Kai Jones to a 2-way contract as a part of the roster juggling that this team is going to be continuing doing as we narrow down the regular season. Your thoughts on Kai Jones reportedly coming to Dallas?
He's a competent center. He's not good necessarily. That's why he's a 2-way player and, was available at this point of the season. But he's competent. I think he will be playable, at least more so than Kyler Kelly, who I am not reporting, but I would presume is the 2-way slot that will be swapped out. And so, yeah, it's not quite as bad as rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, but it does kind of get at that analogy a little bit where you just have to have somebody. And Moses Brown clearly wasn't a perfect solution, but he was the best option they had. And now that Kai Jones is available, not a perfect solution, but the best option in the very limited options Dallas has available to them to bring in anybody who can play the center position. So we'll see. I think that at times Dallas is still going to be best off going small. But again, we saw that against a team like the Charlotte Hornets, when you're just going up against a big old dude, it's better to have somebody out there to match him, or at least try to match him, than not. It's just that there's no player available. There's no player arriving except for the injured players that we don't know when they're arriving, that are going to be a solution for players like Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Got anything for Tim?
No.
All right.
How are you? How was your night?
Oh, I had a weird day. I've had a weird few days. Had a car towed from a spot that I pay for.
That happened to me actually last summer, so can relate. It sucks.
Yeah, had a emergency pet clinic visit. What a start to this week. What a month. What a month it's really been.
Yeah.
So, do you guys even want to discuss Quentin Grimes and his 44-point night?
I mean, he did kind of help the Mavericks, kind of, because they beat Golden State. So
right.
I guess,
Do we view him as a sleeper agent? Is that why the trade happened? If you guys want to talk about it, I'll stick on after the break and we can go through it real quick before I hop off. But if you guys are just like washing your hands and trying to focus on the game itself, then I don't want to force y'all to do anything you don't want.
yeah, man, it's just tough watching a dude go off for 44 while the dude that they traded for.
Here, I have a couple thoughts. Let's do our break, and I'll stick on with you guys for a few more minutes.
Look,
and
I'm not
we can
going
at
to
least
insist that you don't
revisit that real quick.
Okay, cool, no problem. Tim Cato going to stick with us here on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. When we come back, more from our guy Tim Cato, and a little bit later on our show, Bobby's still pictures from what happened tonight. How the Mavericks got clobbered by the Bucks. All that more coming up next on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. But if you want to get fitted in the best sports gear around, you've got to do it with FOCO. They've got hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. If you're going to a basketball game or a hockey game, you can show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets like our friend Sarah gave us when we saw the Mavericks beat the Celtics at Cosm. Great place to go. Whether it's jackets, beachwear, or even overalls, there's something for fans for almost every occasion. They even have set decorations, like you can see some here on set. They've donated a few awesome pieces for our sets, so make sure you go show them some love when it comes to FOCO. I even have a pair of Cowboys Crocs that my wife and my daughter gave me for Christmas, and they got them from FOCO. They're very comfy and very warm around the house. Definitely continue to wear those. So you can check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code DLLS10 for 10% off. Again, that's DLLS10 for 10% off. Shout out to FOCO today.
It was a near win for me on Sleeper tonight. I did my job.
You did your part.
Someone
definitely did your part.
Didn't do his job.
Brooke Lopez.
Yeah. Giannis got to 20. Dame got to 20. Both those guys barely had to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie left it all out there, and he got to 25.
That's right.
And then some. But Brooke Lopez,
bum.
You should have been spotting up all game, man. What are you doing going down there getting 25 offensive rebounds?
And then had the nerve to score 2 points to, like, troll you for real.
You should have been making more than 1.5 threes. But, oh well, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. I will be back. Brooke Lopez, I'll remember this, buddy. If you think you know ball, want to play along with me, download the Sleeper app today. Use promo code DLLSMavs. When you sign up, play $5 to get $55 in free plays. You can use them on any play. It does not have to be your first. Just check the terms of use and the conditions and all that stuff. Sleeper's available in more than 25 states, including Texas, so download it today.
I bet you won't pick him again on Wednesday, will you?
I will never acknowledge his existence again.
Well, we acknowledge the existence of our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, who continues to join us here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. More thoughts after the Mavericks fall to the Bucks, 132-117, dropping to 19-12 so far through 31 games at the American Airlines Center. As we saw in other happenings in the NBA, specifically in Philadelphia, Quentin Grimes tonight goes for a career-high 44 points, going 18 of 24 from the field in a win for the Philadelphia 76ers as they defeat a Jimmy Butler-less Golden State Warrior team tonight. This comes on the heels of Jason Kidd discussing Caleb Martin earlier as he tries to work his way onto this team to make his eventual debut. Just another kind of gut punch when it comes to a Mavericks fan who feels like this season has been completely turned on its head.
Yeah, just since it's obviously now another talking point, it has been, the whole conversation has been reignited because he scored 44 points, which is just he scored 40 points before Luka did. It's something. There's something so darkly funny about the whole thing.
You want to hear something funny? You want to hear something else that's pretty funny about
yeah,
this?
Let's hear it.
This is according to StatMuse. Quentin Grimes and Luka Doncic are the only guards this season to record a game with over 40 points, over 5 rebounds, over 2 steals, and over 5 threes. The Mavericks traded both of them.
And that's obviously a funny circumstance of numbers aligning in a certain way. because it's not like they're the two best guards in the NBA, but it is darkly funny that the numbers aligned in that way. Anyway, just to revisit everything that I thought at the time about Quentin Grimes, just again, since it's a talking point, I thought swapping Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin made sense for this roster. I thought it made sense because Max Christie was now on the team, because Max Christie is a little bit more consistent in the shots he takes, and I think maybe a little bit better as a point of attack defender. I thought there was at least logic to it, and Caleb Martin is a guy who guards up, guards bigger, has postseason experience. He is someone who is on a contract that is easier to trade if that's the route Dallas goes, if they need to build up a matching trade offer to go get someone who's making $40 million or $50 million in the summer. I thought there's some logic behind the whole thing, but that logic held up if Luka was traded. We've already gone through that logic plenty of times. That logic also held up if Jason Kidd just clearly had some level of distrust with Quentin Grimes, and I think it's very clear he did. And I can almost get it, kind of understanding that Grimes occasionally had a little bit of sloppiness and a little bit of inconsistency, but it was a situation where we all thought that Quentin Grimes deserved a longer leash from Jason Kidd, had earned a little bit more trust in these situations, maybe some chances to do a little bit more self-creation, as we saw that he is sometimes certainly capable of, as he was tonight. And then on top of all of that, you have to go back and look at the second-round pick. And now that Philadelphia, even though they won tonight, thanks to Quentin Grimes scoring 44 points, you have to wonder if Quentin Grimes is somebody that is probably now part of Philadelphia's future and he's someone that they're going to prioritize re-signing. If that ends up being the case, did you need to include the second-round pick? Was that a draft asset that you really needed to give up for a player that is starting and playing, 35 plus minutes for Philadelphia, whereas Caleb Martin was, much more of a pure role player? Again, if Quentin Grimes was in Dallas right now, I do think he'd help a little bit because this team really direly needs some shot creation. At the same time, he wouldn't be doing stuff like this. He is doing stuff like this within the context of a Philadelphia team that is now tanking. But man, that, even if you assume all of that, if you take all of that and you're saying Quentin Grimes, well, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now in Dallas if he was still on this roster because of the circumstances, man, that makes that second round pick Dallas gave up look pretty valuable. The one last thing I wanted to say about this was there was a report that Quentin Grimes a lot of people are saying his agent requested a trade. So that came from a Kevin O'Connor podcast. Kevin O'Connor was saying it. I don't like Kevin. I've known Kevin a long time, and certainly he has, information from around the league. But specifically what he says, and I am reading a quote from Kevin O'Connor on his podcast. He said, "My understanding is Quentin Grimes' agent wanted to be moved because Max Christie will be taking a ton of minutes. Quentin Grimes takes a back seat. He's got an upcoming restricted free agency, and Philly could theoretically provide more minutes and more opportunity." So once again, this is a situation that was born from the Luka trade. So whatever you want to contextualize around this, Quentin Grimes is not on the roster because Dallas went and made a move for a player that their coach seemingly rates over him in Max Christie. Jason Kidd seems to trust and like playing Max Christie. He's much more comfortable playing him minutes than it ever seemed he was with Quentin Grimes. And yeah, there wasn't room. There wasn't minutes for him. So, this was a, yes, he wanted out of Dallas when everything kind of, all the dust settled, but it was all because of the circumstances that happened, all the decisions that were made that kind of led to it. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because we saw the kind of glimpses and flashes from Grimes at times during the year that we thought he could be a valuable member of this team, given the context and the circumstances that the Mavericks had especially with we thought the impending return of Luka Doncic, and what could that look like with him in a proper role with this team being outfitted the way that it was designed, we thought, coming into this year. And the move that was made based off of what Nico Harrison wanted for this team and how he wanted to win moving forward here. And look, I mean, give Quentin Grimes credit for playing well tonight, having a big game. Yes, in the context of Philadelphia they're tanking it out, but they came to play and, played well against Golden State, and give him credit for that. It's just, again, another just small thing in what has been a large season of change, unexpected, and for him to perform that way is kind of wild. Just kind of give you an update too when it comes to folks who are looking at the standings and wondering where the Mavericks are relative to the Western Conference standings. With the loss tonight, the Mavericks actually go from 8th to 10th in the Western Conference. The reason being is Minnesota owns the tiebreaker right now over the Dallas Mavericks. So them being both at 32 and 29, the Timberwolves are in 9th with the Mavericks in 10th because the Timberwolves hold the tiebreaker. So that's kind of where we are. Sacramento, they did win tonight as well. So they've now won 3 straight and are 31 and 28. Golden State with the loss drops to 32 and 28. They're 7th in the West. So that kind of just gives you a lay of the land as the Mavericks get ready to take on the Sacramento Kings on Monday. Anything else from me before we let you go here?
I think that's about it. I hope Kyrie Irving is having restful nights of sleep every single night. I just think entirely too much is being asked of that dude right now.
Well, we mentioned a little bit earlier, this is the beginning of March, which also means the beginning of Ramadan for him.
Yes.
So that rest is going to be that much more imperative for Kyrie Irving over the next.
Someone had noted, I think Noah Weber had noted that he left the bench and then came back and appeared to be holding a smoothie in the first quarter. So, although I think the sun was already down at that point. So maybe it was like a second little refueling moment.
Very interesting to note. Also, and shout out to V, who makes the astute point. 5 more days until March 6th. That is kind of the day of the year, if you will, for the Mavericks when we get the reevaluations of Anthony Davis, Derek Lively II, and Daniel Gafford. That will tell us a lot about where this season could be headed for this team as they try to hang on to a play-in or try to get into the top 6 of the Western Conference on what that could look like.
I would just caution yourself, and this is not a situation where you should be expecting any news that involves like a player playing within days of that update. It is possible none of the big men play in the month of March. I would almost argue it's likelier than not that none of these players are playing in March, or at minimum, Daniel Gafford certainly not, but the other two, I think we're still in a weeks territory, not a days territory. I'm not Mark Stein, but I think we're still looking weeks than days.
Well, there we go.
And it checks out with what we know of these injuries and also what we're seeing of these players doing on the court. Ginger shooting sessions, as of a few days ago is not, ginger shooting, moving around the court. That's not days away from being cleared from 5-on-5, which is not days away from actually getting back on the court.
I mean, hell, Lively's still in a walking boot. Like he's still,
and it's precautionary. It's very precautionary. He is, yes, but yes, like this is he is still fully in a precautionary mode with his injury. And again, it's Anthony Davis is the closest to returning out of the 3 big men, but it's really, it's still gonna be some time.
Well, Tim, as always, we appreciate you hanging out with us, and not for just 1 but 2 segments on tonight's show. We really appreciate you doing that, and we will talk to you on Monday when the Mavericks get ready to take on the Sacramento Kings to finish up this homestand, man. Appreciate your time.
See y'all.
Bye, Tim.
That's our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato reporting live from the American Airlines Center. When we come back here to finish up our Dallas Mavs post-game show, some pictures from our guy Bobby Curl on how things went down tonight for the Mavericks, and we look ahead to the game on Monday night when the Mavericks host the Sacramento Kings as the Western Conference continues to be muddled. All that and more coming up next year on the Dallas Mavs post-game show.
But first, shout out to Clint, shout out to Jordan, Steven, Randall, Yoon, and Kyle, who all within the last 30, 36 hours,
Nice.
give or take, have signed up to become diehards. So shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you very much. For those who are just hanging in the chat, maybe like the stream, been active in the comments section, or maybe subscribe to the channel. We're doing pre- and post-game coverage for all 82 Mavs games, win or lose, rain or shine, even if it's snowy and icy outside, right here on the DLS Sports YouTube channel for free. But if you want to take your support one step further, you can scan the QR code right there, or click the link in the description below, or go to alldls.com/diehard, where for a limited time, we're running a sweet disky. This is a once-in-a-lifetime offer, folks. The Rangers have just started spring training. Kind of. They've been out there for a little bit.
Yeah, been out there for a little bit.
And so, too, was our Rangers beat writer, Jeff Wilson, out in Surprise. They're gearing up for opening day, and so to get you ready, we're running a deal. It's $48 to become a diehard for a year. When you sign up, you get a free shirt of your choosing. We got more than 30 shirt designs, and we're always cooking up some new stuff. That basically almost pays for the entire membership. But if that wasn't enough, folks, you get a discount on any other stuff you'd want. You get a discount on any events. You get to read the entire website. All the premium paywall written content from Jeff Wilson on the Rangers, Tim Cato on the Mavs. We got Sam Nessler and Sean Shapiro on the Stars. We got Clarence Hill and Joe Hoyt on the Cowboys, with more hopefully coming very, very soon. You also get to join the DLS Diehard Discord Lounge, where I think we're all in need of the Just Positive Vibes channel today, because
man,
holy moly, things are rough.
And the wrestling Discord, because we got some things happening in the WWE.
I'm sure you'll be popping in there later tonight.
Definitely.
And you get your physical diehard card, best of all. So do that. It would mean the world to me. And
me.
Thank you all for your support.
As we finish up here on the DLS Mavs post-game show, the Mavericks fall to the Milwaukee Bucks 132-117 as they are now 1-1 on their 3-game homestand. That'll finish up on Monday when they welcome in the Sacramento Kings. They are currently on a 3-game winning streak themselves, are Sacramento. But, Bobby, it was a night where the Stars for the other side were able to really dominate this game in the time that they were on the floor. And unfortunately, that was not good for the Mavericks in the way that they got after those guys tonight.
Yeah, I have sat here and decried, and I did this when I was working for the team. One of my basketball tenets is you should never, ever, and I mean under any circumstance, unless the guy that's one pass away is not a shooter. But if the guy that's one pass away is a shooter, you should never, ever, 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 ever double team an NBA player in the post or in the middle of the floor from one pass away. You are asking, nay, begging for disaster and catastrophe to strike. And that happened time and time again tonight. And I just can't take it anymore, KG.
I mean, especially when it's Dame Lillard. Like, my gosh. There's certain dudes in the league that you just don't leave wide the hell open.
Doubling off of Dame.
That's just not good strategy.
In a game you were trying to win.
That's correct.
Tanner, let's go to the footage.
Pictures.
We can't show video. I'll get yelled at. I don't want to get yelled at. It's
No.
the weekend, so we're just using still images. Time and score. Midway through the second quarter, the Mavs are scoring at will. They're up 10. How do we ruin it, KG?
By doubling one pass away from a shooter.
So Giannis is posting up Max Christie. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, I implore you to go to YouTube to check this out. But if you can't, I will describe it to you best I can. Giannis is posting up Max Christie. Najee Marshall sags off Dame Lillard. This is on purpose. And here's the problem. Generally, whenever you double from one pass away, you go into rotation. So then the guy that would be guarding the next pass, in this case that would be Brook Lopez, would rotate over to the guy that you leave open.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, that would be Dame Lillard. But it's Moses Brown on Brook Lopez, and he is staying down low where he is honestly supposed to be. I don't want Moses on the perimeter.
True.
So there is no one guarding the guy that's one pass away from Dame, meaning, as we go to the next picture, Kyrie Irving, as Dame already catches the ball, has to run at full speed across the entire width of the court.
Good gracious.
To get to Dame. Now, credit to Kyrie. He sprints his ass off and actually forces Dame to pump fake and sidestep as we go to this last frame. But Najee does not come out to Dame to help Kyrie. Najee stays on Giannis as Max Christie goes over to the weak side corner for whatever reason to guard Taurean Prince. And now Kyrie has run past Dame, and Dame has an easy as he likes wide open three where he can get his feet set. That is way, way, way too easy.
There was no one within 7 feet of him.
It is way too easy. And the problem with, again, like I said, the problem doubling from one pass away is you are voluntarily entering rotation, which can work if you have a team full of defenders that is on the same page. But the Mavs right now have a lot of weak links, guys that are inexperienced, guys that Moses Brown was not on the team last week. Do I expect him to know all the rules? No. Max Christie just joined the team a few weeks ago. Do I expect him to know all the rules? No. As we go to this next example, Tanner, Omax Prosper is the Mavs center. Do I expect Omax to know all the rules?
Let's stop right there real quick. Omax Prosper is the center on the floor.
Jaden Hardy is on the floor. He barely plays, and part of the reason he doesn't play often is because he does have the tendency to kind of space out on defense every now and then. So the Mavs, you're down 16. It is what it is. I guess you're trying to force a turnover or whatever. So again, Najee is going to completely neglect Dame Lillard to go double team Giannis, who is being guarded by Clay. Omax is kind of trying to play the passing lane between Giannis and Jericho Sims. So Kyrie is rotating early over to Dame. Kyrie is doing his job. He is pre-rotating. Kyrie is already running from the left side of the floor to the right side of the floor. The defense's right side of the floor, offense is the left side. As Najee is preparing to double Giannis. Mm-hmm. This is well done. But as we go to the next image, Kyrie gets there. Who the hell is guarding AJ Green?
Absolutely no one.
What is happening right here?
He's running wide open.
Jaden Hardy is slow to react. That's what is happening. What is supposed to happen here? As Kyrie pre-rotates, Jaden Hardy, you pre-rotate. That man in the corner, which is Gary Trent Jr., that becomes either, it depends on the Mavs' rules, either Omax or Najee. But Najee's ball watching. There is no way that he's going to get out to Gary Trent, so it's going to have to be Omax. Mm-hmm. But instead, they're just going to leave a guy wide open who's only in the NBA because he can catch and shoot wide open threes. So as we go to this last picture, he is so wide open. Hardy's 10 feet away from him at least by the time he rises to shoot that jump shot. That is the cleanest look you will ever get in an NBA game. And all of this is happening. The first example happened in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. This example happened in 3 seconds. You are making it way too easy. Tanner, the final example.
Oh, there's more?
This is the last one where everyone kind of does their job. All right, they force as many passes as possible. PJ is now doubling Giannis, who is being guarded by Max Christie. We see Brook Lopez in the lane as opposed to on top of the three-point line. On top of the arc, which allows Dinwiddie to pre-rotate. Like, everybody's in position. This is really well done by the Mavs. They have this set up well. The problem is this is a losing way to play defense. So even when you do your job, you are still putting yourself at risk of making a mistake. As we go to the next picture, Spencer Dinwiddie is not only preventing Dame from shooting a three, but also defending the middle of the floor. He is forcing Dame directly into the defense. Well done, Spencer Dinwiddie. Honestly, great defense. Kyrie Irving rotating in time to get out to Gary Trent Jr. if he were to shoot a three. Kyrie, great defense. Max Christie handed PJ off to Giannis, and now Max is getting out to the corner, though, and this is where things get weird. As we go to the next picture, Max Christie had to take a roundabout path to get out to the corner because Brook Lopez and Moses Brown are eating up space in the box. So Max Christie is running at Prince at an angle, and what is he doing? He's conceding the baseline. Is that the Mavs rule? I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I don't know why you would ever give up the baseline on purpose. I'm sure that his job is to take away the baseline and force Taurean Prince into the help, which is both Kyrie and Moses Brown. But Max Christie had to cover 45 feet in 2 seconds, and so you're not going to always be perfect. So as we go to this final frame, here's where Moses Brown, despite being the tallest player on the floor, Moses being 50 pounds lighter or whatever than Brook Lopez is an issue because Brook is just able to get him right out of the paint.
Nice little Gortat screen right there.
Absolutely, and that leaves Taurean Prince open for a layup. So the way that Max Christie defended that, allowing the baseline, only helps if there will be help on the baseline, but Brook Lopez moved the help out of the way, and so it's a layup. All of these things happen in 2 and 3 and 4 seconds. Now, one of these plays happened at the very end of the game. Those first 2 plays I showed you were back-to-back. They were consecutive plays in this game, or it was 53-43 and then 55-48. So it wasn't totally back-to-back. My bad. There was one possession in between. But the Mavs were doubling 3 or 4 straight possessions in the second quarter. Their lead went from 10 to 2, and all of a sudden it was a game again. I can't do it, man. I cannot see them repeatedly double from one pass away. I really appreciate and value and admire a lot of J. Kidd and Sean Sweeney's defensive tactics. I also admire the players' buy-in, but this kind of defense is exposing yourself to way too many things that could go wrong, and Mavs were not able to execute it tonight.
Especially against a team in Milwaukee who shoots 38% from downtown, second best in the league. You just can't do it. You cannot do it. As we finish up here on the Dallas Mavs postgame show, let's get to a couple of our super chats that we have on the evening, starting with Matt with the $4.99 super chat. What happens first? Kid learns timeouts, can stop runs, or PJ regains his confidence. Death taxes and Kid watching a team on a heater with his hands in his pockets.
I hope it's PJ. Timeouts are not proven to stop runs. I know no one wants. I know that that's just a gaslighting thing to say, but it is true. Timeouts they're not magical.
It makes me think about the OKC Dallas game when Dallas was on like a 30-0 run. And
Mark Daigneault called 4 timeouts.
Daigneault kept calling timeouts. Like, stop this blank. And he just could not stop.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Now, what can change the tenor of a game is adjustments.
Yes.
And sometimes you do make adjustments during timeouts, but oftentimes J. Kidd will make adjustments and call them out during free throws, during out-of-bounds plays. He'll call guys to the side or whatever. And in those instances, the cameras usually aren't catching it because it's on a player, it's showing you a replay or whatever.
Sure.
But J. Kidd does talk quite a bit during games. It's just not really seen on camera.
Henry Diesel 23 with the $4.99 super chat. Doubling one pass away, Kid special. Keep telling y'all the noise to have Kid fired needs to be louder.
I don't like it. I don't like it. And I did see, first off, shout out, appreciate both Matt and Henry for the super chats. I saw Luke in the chat mention that, playing Giannis one-on-one is a losing proposition because Giannis, is going to dominate any of those guys. I agree, but if Giannis is going one-on-one, the worst-case scenario is that he gets fouled and one.
Yeah.
If you double Giannis, the worst-case scenario is you're giving up an open three, and the Bucks are 44% three-point shooting team from the corners. They got a lot of guys that shoot 40%. It's just, and they also give up layups out of it too. So it's just, you're just leaving a lot to chance.
As we mentioned with the loss, the Mavericks dropped to 32-29 on the season. They are now 10th in the Western Conference. Minnesota holds the tiebreaker. That means they, with the same record, are in 9th as far as the Western Conference is concerned. As you look at the top 10 teams in the West, as my tablet goes. There we go.
Oh, no.
We got Oklahoma City, of course, your number 1 seed. Denver, your number 2 seed. I don't know what's going on with, there it is. Now it's refreshed. There we go. Oklahoma City is your number 1 seed. Denver's your number 2 seed. The Lakers have now moved all the way up to the 3 seed with Memphis's loss tonight. Memphis drops to the 4 seed. So the Lakers at 37-21. Memphis at 38-22. That means the Lakers are tied. As far as they're 10.5 games behind Oklahoma City. But OKC number 1, Denver number 2, LA number 3, Memphis number 4. Houston, they lost to the Kings tonight, which drops them to the 5th seed. The Clippers, they are the 6th seed. Meanwhile, teams 7 through 10, Golden State, Sacramento, Minnesota, and Dallas. Phoenix, with their latest win, they're now 28-32. They are 3.5 games behind.
They won a game?
They did.
Oh,
yeah, they did. How about that? So Phoenix is at 28-32. They are 3.5 games behind the Mavericks for the 10th spot in the Western Conference. Now, remember, Dallas will see Phoenix on March 9th. So a game that the Mavericks will need to win to keep the distance between Phoenix to try to make sure they maintain a spot as far as the play-in is concerned.
Phoenix, Minnesota up next. That's a big game.
Oh, they play each other tomorrow?
Oh, my God. All right, I know we got the 59, but
yeah.
I'm going to make this fast. Here's Phoenix's next however many games.
Okay.
Versus Minnesota, versus Clippers, at Nuggets, at Mavs, at Grizzlies, at Rockets, versus Kings, at Lakers. There's your season.
Jeez.
Those next 8 games, that's it.
Wow.
It could be over for them very soon. Very soon.
Real quick, appreciate all of our television.
No, we're signing off, baby.
Oh, we're done? Oh, I was going to let the people know that you can join us on Monday at 6:45 p.m. for our pregame show as the Mavericks take on the Sacramento Kings. We'll try to find out what Domantas Sabonis' availability is going to be for that game. He left the game with a hamstring injury, so he may not be available for the game on Monday. Well, but we will be here 6:45 p.m. for our Dlls Mavs pregame show. We are off, of course, on Sunday, but back on Monday. So we appreciate you joining us then for our pregame show. Also want to thank our guy, Tim Cato, for joining us here on the post-game show as well. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato. Appreciate our Tanner. We do appreciate our Tanner. He is our Tanner.
Aw, thank you.
He is ours. Our producer, Tanner, for making us look good and sound good as always. Thank you, sir. That is our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Carella. I am your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLS Mavs. Mavericks fall 132-117 to the Milwaukee Bucks. They get back on the floor on Monday to finish up the 3-game homestand against the Sacramento Kings. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.